And happy Wednesday to the world out there. And gentlemen, welcome to the Hawkscast.net podcast. Birdfinger already chiming in saying have a great show. Thanks, Bird. Have a great evening today.
It's very sweet of him.
Always.
The sweet dude.
It's like the best. What's not the best is we have the Seahawks with a 2-4 record. The Seahawks have not had this bad of a record since I want to say the Jim Mora era. Because even when they started 0-2, they got back to 2-2, and then they went to 3-3 before they went to like 3-5, I believe. But 2-4, that's a pretty terrible record for the Seahawks.
Not where you want to be.
It's not where I thought we would be, for sure.
I mean, what did you think it would be?
Well, I mean, pre-injury to Russ, I felt like a lot of these games are very winnable. Like the Rams game, I thought the Seahawks were actually playing quite well. They were pretty competitive in that game. They made some mistakes, but I thought, if Russ doesn't get injured, they have a chance. And then this game, it's a 20-20 game. It starts 0-14. It's 17-20, and you need kind of like this weird fluky series of events. DK making kind of a boneheaded move, but Freddie Sween right there picking him up, and they're able to spike the ball, and Jason Myers kicks all his field goals. He definitely hurt my fantasy team, but I'll take him performing well to try and tie up the game. But that was a winnable game, which is kind of why it was maybe a little bit more of a bummer than initially expected. But I wasn't like crushed like the Titans or the Vikings game.
Yeah, I mean, chances are with Russ in, we win that game, right?
I'd like to think. I mean,
everything else being equal.
Yeah, I feel like there was just so much more. If Russ is in that game, they have a chance to exploit. And, they could still have been down 0-14 at half, but there was a huge lack of explosive plays. And we talked about that, going from Russ down to anyone else. Russ brings explosive plays. It's that boom or bust mentality. I don't know if we would have ever seen a drive where the Seahawks open a 10-play drive and they throw it one time and run it 9 other times. I don't think we would have seen that with Russ at the helm, though.
Yeah, maybe not.
I mean, it's... man, there's so much to say, but so much is dangerous to say.
Dangerous?
Dangerous?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are in critical, dangerous territory of some serious long Ross rants today. So I'm going to try to keep myself under control, and you guys can police me. And because I thought there was a lot of there's an alarm going off. I thought there was a lot. I think there was a lot going on, sort of in the background, or sort of like the implications of the game. I thought go pretty deep. Even when you say like, "Hey, if Russ was in there, we would have won that game." Like when you say, "Hey, it went to overtime," that's with Geno Smith. So, and like Russ does win games. So, but at the same time, like I agree, but I don't agree. Because I don't know what that game looks like if Russ is in there. Like nothing in that game would have looked the same.
No, I think that's fair to say, and that's why I bring up that opening drive in the third quarter where they go 10 plays, 9 of them are rushing attempts, and it's only one pass.
That's also interesting to me because you're saying like if Russ is in there, we wouldn't do that, and people are like, well, of course you wouldn't because he's a better passer. But you know what, like when Tom Brady was with the Patriots, they're so flexible and so fluid and so teamwork orientated that if that's the weakness they exploited, I mean, you've seen like that the drives that come out and the Patriots like run the ball 11 times in a row, right? Like with Tom Brady, best quarterback of all time, but if that's the weakness they identify, that's what you go for. Tom Brady, like all time now in statistics, he's in the top 1, 2, 3, 4 of almost every category now because he's been playing for 22 years or something.
Right.
But most seasons, except for that one season with Randy Moss where they just proved they could do whatever they wanted, most seasons he doesn't have gaudy stats.
No.
He doesn't. They do, and that's kind of my point. Is like, why don't we ever see, if Russ is in there? Why don't we still see like 9 runs in a row? Are we so sensitive to pseudo faux analytics Twitter? I mean, I don't think so. But
well, I mean,
like,
there was also a time where it was run pass, and Seahawks are just traditionally bad on third downs, even with Russ. That like people didn't want Seahawks to run the ball regardless of who they had at running back.
The thing is, like, you shouldn't be married to any of that. It should be like run. If you know that their nose guard and their defensive tackle aren't going to get the job done, then run it right at them over in like the middle linebacker can't either. Then run right at them 4, 5, 6 times in a row. I mean, or if it's the opposite, fine, pass 10 times in a row, but it shouldn't matter. Like, it's sad that we all three of us know that if Russ was in there was no way they would open the second half. But if they had been shut out 14-0 in the first half, and the second half came, and that was the situation, and running was what was there, why shouldn't they be able to do that? I don't know why we now actually have to think about how many passing attempts does Russell Wilson get. That mindset even existing at all is not a good thing. It's a team game. All we should all care about is winning. The fact that even like Russ is now even thinking about, well, I want to have an MVP vote. I want to have some numbers. Why do you care, Russ? Don't you just care about winning? What do you normally think about any player who talks like that? If it was Randy Moss saying, well, I got to get my catches, what would you think?
I would say, yeah, Randy Moss should get his catches.
Well, you'd also be like, oh, God, here goes the diva.
I mean, I have a different mentality when it comes to that because, Randy Moss saying I need catches is different from like Freddie Swain saying I need catches. That's the distinction that I would make.
But I mean, this is to me like more like the Seahawks score a touchdown and a player who didn't get the carry gets mad because the touchdown went to somebody else. Like, if we're successful, and we've been this successful, if we're historically successful, why are you caring about whether you have an MVP vote?
I mean, realistically,
Yeah.
I think it's ego, and I think it's hard for every person. Like, that's the thing about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is such an anomaly. He's got what, 7 rings now? What does it matter what he does, right? He's already got 7 championships under his belt.
But it's sort of chicken and the egg there. Like,
but that's the point, though. Because he's had 7 of them already, what does it matter? Because he's already lived in this like pristine world of having all the accolades. So
right, but again, he got that because of. I mean, I just see 2 contradictory things with what Russell's asking, and in a really indirect way, some of this last game pointed out to me. I was just like, Russell came out and said he wants more wins. It's very, very clear he wants to win. We got to get the right team. We got to get the right everything because he wants to go deeper in the playoffs. But at the same time, he's also saying it also has to be about him and his numbers. And I'm like, we did best when you were being the most efficient. I'm sorry, the American public and the general public is more concerned with numbers than efficiency. That's just how America is. It's weird, okay? But if that's, what do you want? Do you want to win or do you want the numbers? Because they don't always go hand in hand, and they often don't. The most prolific passing games don't usually win. And that goes way back.
Sure.
So I don't know. I thought that 9-run 1-pass thing was really telling because we wouldn't have felt like we could have done that even if that's what we needed to do with Russ. Doesn't mean I don't want Russ, but I want Russ to be like young Russ again. Like, not as far as ability. That's never coming back. But I want that mentality. I want that eye of the tiger. All I want to do is win. All I want to do is lift my teammates. That's what I want. I think that's how you win. That's how Tom Brady, again, it's chicken and egg, but that's how Tom Brady does it.
Right.
That's how Patrick Mahomes is, actually, now. Like, I want that eye of the tiger mentality. Win. I want to win. If you want to win, then all that other stuff will come. It will. But you can't be worried about the numbers and then hope it, like, the winning comes along. Or you can't say you want to do both because they don't always go together. Anyway, let's move on. I'm already going on my rant. Sorry.
All right. Ross is just getting warmed up, but the Seahawks return to primetime again for a Monday night showdown with the Jameis Winston-led New Orleans Saints, who is going to eat that W to cap off Week 7. We got our first look at Geno Smith as our quarterback, and optimism is there, but a lot of questions are still left unanswered. The team overcame a 0-14 deficit and rallied to tie the game at 20-20, but a huge turnover sealed the game. The defense did break the streak of giving up 450 yards of offense, but it was against a lackluster Steelers team. Can the defense continue to show some development? This is a Hawkscast.net podcast, and Ross, we're going to let you kind of carry into your rant, and we're going to go off with topic number 1. How has your view of the team changed after Geno's first start? You've talked about it a little bit, and you've reflected on how it's kind of displayed Russ and his mentality and how that's kind of at odds at the greater overall good of what we need a team to be. But how has it changed specifically with Geno Smith at the helm?
I think it basically gives Pete Carroll the reason, the excuse, the motivation, depends on how you look at it, to go back to how he's comfortable, right? So we go in at halftime, the last game, we're losing 14-0. We've done absolutely nothing, right? It's funny because after Geno Smith took over the end of the game the week before, and he actually moved that ball on a 98-yard drive, I think a lot of us were like, okay, he can, he's not Russell Wilson, but he is still a good quarterback, and he can push the ball down the field, and he can do. That's like really like the big thing that separates the boys from the men, a quarterback, right? Like, number one quarterbacks can throw those 16, 25-yard routes and like effectively and so it opens the whole field, whereas backup quarterbacks and secondary quarterbacks, they're kind of restricted to 15 years and shorter, the outlet passes and things like that. But either Geno, once given the whole game plan and the other teams prepared for him, can't do that, or doesn't have the confidence to, or we don't have the confidence in him to. So they tried to still run like a sort of a pass-first kind of thing the first half. We got shut out, and we looked bad being shut out. And at halftime, and I wish, like, did the XFL have the cameras in the locker room during the halftime?
I believe so.
Like, I don't normally like that, but man, last game I wish I was, because I want to know what happened. I want to know, did Pete Carroll scream and yell? I want to know, or did somebody just quietly have a word? But at some point, clearly, Pete Carroll said, okay, fine. If we're going to have this kind of season, we don't have Russ, and we're going to lose, fine. But you know what? We're going to play the football that I think wins. We're going to run the ball. We're going to actually have time of possession on our side. We're going to shorten the game. We're going to make it a close game. And we're going to see how it goes. And he almost did it. 20 points in the second half. That says a lot about a team. We talked about this a little bit in the offseason when we did a couple of our special podcasts. We suddenly are like giving Russ everything he wants, but the thing is the team hasn't completely changed. The offensive linemen we still have, except for Dwayne Brown, they're mostly still meant, those are the guys who were recruited to run the ball. And we still have a stable of running backs. I think Sammy in particular, you don't really think they're much of our running backs after Chris Carson, but they're all decent. And we've got a bunch of them.
They're limited. The problem with each of them is that they have deficiencies that are fine for your second and third string running back that are more of a change of pace. They have not demonstrated the ability to be reliable. Yeah. Like the Steelers defense is terrible. Like really quickly. So I looked at the game. Of the 4-5 drives, let's see, how many drives did the Seahawks have in the first half? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 5 meaningful drives. The longest number of plays that they had was a 7-play drive that ran 3 minutes. none of their drives had equal amounts of run to pass. They were all pass heavy in every single drive. Now, a lot of them are 3 and outs or 4 plays and they punt the ball.
Yes.
But there was that flip. And Ross, I want to talk to me more about like what you saw. Like, what is it about Alex Collins, DJ Dallas, and Travis Homer that they were able to do in the second half running the ball that they choose not to do in the first half?
Again, I mean, first half it's Shane's going to run his offense. It's the Seahawk offense, but it's Geno instead of Russ. And there was false hope because of how the previous game ended that Geno can be pretty effective in it, but he can't. And that's what happens with that kind of offense. If you don't have the good quarterback, it doesn't work. And so I don't know if it was so much about running backs that they thought that was effective, but Pete Carroll's like, look, we're running my style, my philosophy. You know, it's your playbook, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to run the ball. Run it, because we have Gabe Jackson. Brought Gabe Jackson like as an upgrade, but you know what? He's better run blocking. And the rest of the line, again, the exception being maybe Dwayne Brown, the rest of the line is all built for run blocking more than pass blocking. You can't suddenly turn their team around in one offseason. And then they decided to just attack him. And then that is a completely different way of blocking. It's a different way for the defensive to be attacked, and that wears them down. And, you know, on one drive even, instead of like, you know, the offensive line backing up and you go after the passer, instead that guy comes out and beats on you 9 plays out of 10. That starts to demoralize you. That starts to tire you out. And it's going to be more and more and more effective. And every Seahawk running back by the end ended up with a 10-yard run or longer, I believe. Because of that. You're just beating them down. That's Pete Carroll. That's what he wants to do. And it shortened the game. It gave us the comeback. Scored us 20 points and a half. All the way back up to overtime. And then in overtime, what happened?
They stopped running the ball.
And for 2 games in a row, the game ended essentially on a Geno Smith turnover.
Yeah.
And you can't have turnovers in PK football. And you can't have, and that is the one question going forward, because I believe this is what they should do. You can just disagree about what we should do when Russ comes back, but I do think the next 2, 3, whatever many weeks he's going to be out, the next 2 games, they should do that again. You should go back to classic PK football, shorten the game, whatever. But the one difficulty with it is those games tend to make it that style makes it a 1-possession game, a 1-score game. And that's why, if people was like, oh, if you have Pete Carroll, then you don't even need Russell. No, you still need to have a great, efficient quarterback. Because when you put, this is the problem, you put Geno Smith in there, and it's a 1-score game, 1-possession game, but Geno's going to give it up sometimes. You need a good quarterback, so it's a problem.
We're gonna tag in Zeb here. We're gonna get Ross some oxygen here. Zeb, has your view of the team changed after this Geno Smith start?
Not a whole lot, but I am basically going to say exactly what Ross just said, which is that, you know, I was excited to see Geno and see what this offense looked like with him, and I think it can get better, but I think what we know now for sure, and it's not a revelation, is that we're not going to win with Geno if we're relying on Geno to win the games for us. We're going to have to be good everywhere else and make it as easy for him as possible. I think that getting, hopefully at some point, D. Eskridge back would help him out a lot, having a guy that he can hit underneath that can get positive yards after the catch. I think that would be super huge. But I don't know. I don't think we know anything about how he's looking at this point. I know he's going to come off IR in a week or 2, right? But
yeah.
But do we have we heard anything about how he is? Is he close to being ready to play?
No.
I mean, it's from a concussion, right? So
right.
It's just so bad news.
It's weird. I think that if we had won this game, Trey Brown might have the play of the game in that stop.
Yeah.
A fantastic play from a guy who's had hardly any playing time at all in his professional career at this point, to recognize what was happening and go make that play was phenomenal, and it kept us in the game.
I want to talk a little bit more about that play because that wasn't even Trey's primary responsibility.
He had to make the decision to go do that. Yeah.
He rolled off of coverage and attacked that dude and just basically undressed him. So, I mean,
but see the counter to that, the flip side to that is that then DK Metcalf almost blows the game for us with, you mentioned it briefly earlier, just a boneheaded play. Like, not only just a boneheaded play, but getting the ball slapped out of your hand that easily. You know what I mean? Like, you're a big, strong dude. You need to be able to hold on to that football and not just get it punched out with a, it wasn't even like a high effort. It was just like a whoop, ball's out.
Yeah.
Good work. Thank God Freddie Swain was, on top of it. And obviously it didn't ultimately matter because we lost, but it was an interesting
it mattered
contrast
enough
there
to make it a tight game.
At least we had a chance.
You're right.
So, there was some encouraging things. I think that, Trey Brown, number one to me, obviously it's a very small sample size at this point, but he looks the part. And I think the defense looks like they have the ability to kind of get it together. I wish Jamal could catch.
So we mentioned this on the forum, and he's definitely gotten a lot of shit, deservedly for a lot of it. But what I've heard from people that are looking at it, and this is not an excuse, this is just kind of adding more context. The place where Jamal was looking, he was watching the wide receiver come across, so he was ready to basically take the guy out or, disrupt the ball. But because Ben has such a noodle of an arm, it kind of floated and went straight into Jamal and instead of the receiver. So the ball was off target, not so much that Jamal... But that's the distinction between a guy that has his ball on the receiver and on the quarterback, which Jamal can't do. That's
right. And
the distinction.
If that was the only time that Jamal's ever dropped a potentially pretty easy interception, it'd be one thing. But we've seen him do it before.
No, he's got stone hands for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not just the hands. It's where he's looking, his instincts, that kind of thing. He's got It's not a terrible thing. It's just it could help us so much more if he was better at it. That's all.
It's a terrible thing because of how he sees himself. That's what makes it terrible. Like, I want to play that play during his contract negotiations, and I want to hear him tell us that. Oh, well, I was looking this direction and the ball came, so I was late to see the ball, so I didn't catch it. Great, cool, awesome.
Let's take $500,000 off of this yearly contract.
Right. So, like, listen to your excuse, but then at the same time, tell me you're an elite safety. Does an elite safety have those restrictions on it? Like, I mean, I have that problem. I go to dodgeball, as I've mentioned, every Monday, and this couple days ago, I was out on a throw because a guy threw at me, and it was a catchable ball right at my chest level where I like it. But I picked the ball up late. That's true. Yeah, totally cool. But you know what? I'm 49, and I'm not a professional football player. I watch football on my sofa now. Like, I don't ask for $17 million. So I can say to my friend Demi, hey, Demi, yes, you got me out because I didn't see you throwing the ball at me till too late. I don't get to be $17.5 million, dude, and go, well, yeah, but I didn't, the ball was out of his hand, like, kind of slow, so I didn't see it. I mean, like, you're supposed to be an elite safety. You insisted you were an elite safety. You wouldn't sign the contract and made us all have a heart attack for all offseason because you were an elite safety, and you can't make that catch. You have to make the catch. You're the elite dude.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it's fair. This isn't anything that Jamal said. This is just what people that I'd read on Twitter and online have said. So it's not a defense of Jamal. It's just like, you can take it in a bunch of different ways. You can say, like, look, this is a deficiency, and if he can't get better at this, then it makes the contract look worse. It makes the trade look worse, which, again, it's just a domino effect, a snowball effect of evaluating the trade and seeing where Jamal is, a little bit less than a third the way through year 2 with the Seahawks.
Like, the easy way to say it is, if that's the level of play that we're going to get, then that's fine, but we could have got that from, like, Tedrick Thompson. I mean, he's a free safety, not a strong safety, but
Yeah.
point, you get it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and I think the 2021 Jamal Adams, what we're seeing in the 2021 Jamal Adams, is completely different from the 2020 Jamal Adams. And that's for me, I'm still holding out hope. Really quickly, back to the topic, and then we'll talk a little bit more about kind of the future of this team. What really stood out to me, and we talked about it again, is that explosive plays. When Ben had the fumble because he had the meat sweats and the ball just like fell straight into the ground because he tried to double clutch, Seattle would have gone for the throat. They would have gone like play action and gone deep with Russell Wilson at the helm. And I felt that there was no opportunity for the Seahawks to threaten a big, deep, go for the throat kind of play. And that's what I noticed the most, because if that were a Russell Wilson led team, I feel like that secondary, that defense, if and again, this is the big if they were able to commit to the run the way that they did in the second half, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett would have like eaten the Steelers alive. They would have had touchdowns on every drive, because what statistics have shown is that play action is not predicated on being successful with a run. It's being predicated on just run attempts. It doesn't matter how effective you are with a run, but if you continue to motion and like give the ball to your running backs, that's what increases play action success. If you pair that with a strong running game, I feel like that's an opportunity that Russell Wilson would have been able to take advantage of, and we would have seen those explosive plays. The explosive plays that the Seahawks saw were guys just like dodging tackles. Like Gerald Everett had the longest play from scrimmage, I believe, and it was a 41-yard play. Almost got a touchdown on it, but I think he got stopped at like the 1 or the 2, and then that's when Will Dissly got his 1-yard touchdown. But that was the longest play for the Seahawks the entire game.
Well, I mean, like, welcome to the rest of the NFL. I mean, like we're so spoiled, right?
But that's like the thing, though, right? We've been living with 10 years of Russell Wilson throwing it deep, throwing a seam route, throwing a go, throwing whatever route to his receivers, them getting free, and it's just been daylight, especially in the last 2 years. So that's what I noticed, and this isn't a knock against Geno. I never expected Geno to be the guy that's just gonna like throw it up there. I do think that is also a potential limitation that I've seen from Geno from his game in Thursday night to the Sunday night game. He's not throwing into heavy traffic. He's not throwing into one-on-one situations with the same recklessness or like drive that I saw in Thursday night versus Sunday night. Like in Thursday night, he was throwing a DK one-on-one with Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey is considered one of the best cover corners or in the game right now. And Geno went at him like 5 times in that game, and he beat him like almost every time.
Interesting. Like coming off the bench with no expectations, and it's all upside versus like, this is me trying out for a starting job somewhere else next year. Yeah, like it was
right.
So much more conservative.
And that hesitation is, I understand from Geno's perspective, and he might have Pete Carroll in his ear saying like, look, take the sack, throw the ball away, don't turn the ball over. A sack is worth more than turning the ball over, and we'll live to play another down. So I think that is maybe something that Pete Carroll has kind of stressed to him, and maybe that's something that they're talking about in preparation for each of these games. But that's the thing that I noticed most about the game, and it's one of the things that I do miss about Russell Wilson. It's not a surprise that we don't have that, and it's not a surprise that Geno's not going to be able to replicate that off the bat based upon what the coaching staff is probably telling him and what this offense is going to look like in the next couple of weeks. Final thoughts on Geno.
How many balls did he have batted down? Do we know?
I want to say like 2 or 3.
No, it was 4.
It was
4
4
of them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's 4 pass deflections, 3 by T.J. Watt and 1 by Chris Wormley.
Right now, granted, it's T.J. Watt, but at the same time, like Russell doesn't have. He's
No.
the big thing is that he's not tall, but like he doesn't have a ton of balls batted down.
Yeah,
like
it was kind of ironic. Like Geno had 1 batted ball for every inch of height he has over Russ. He's 4 inches higher than Russ and had 4 batted balls.
Geno looked to me. It's his first start in a long time, but he looked to me very slow in decision making. Hopefully that'll improve, but
yeah,
it was very noticeable.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to topic number 2. Zeb, does this team have what it takes to make a late season run? I don't know if a playoff run is in the cards. I don't know if it's just like finishing strong, but do you see this team, and whoever comes back, whoever is healthy, can they make any kind of late season run here? Because we're 6 games in, we've got 11 games left.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think for all the negatives that we bring up, there's also a lot of positives. And health has been an issue. So if we can get healthier, and can make kind of, hopefully this, like we've talked about in the previous topic, this kind of maybe get back to the basics, man. Get back to that commitment to run, play some strong defense. Don't rely on magic to win games. And I think that, I don't know, we don't know how long Russell's going to be out. Geno could play, he could start 8 games. But I do believe that we are going to see this team kind of rally. Will it be enough to make a playoff push? I don't know. That's going to be hard to tell. It's kind of reminiscent of those 90s, especially those Dennis Erickson squads, where towards the end of the season we'd have a shot at the playoffs, but ultimately fall short. But you'd see the team make that push. And as a 90s football fan, that's that's not what I want, but there's something nostalgic about it. Anyway, I think Trey Brown gives me hope. I think that if we can get D. Eskridge back and kind of get back to those basics and just play good, solid, fundamental football, I think we do have a chance to make a good run at the end of the season.
Ross, Green Bay, Arizona, LA Rams, Arizona. Those are the 4 teams left on the schedule that have 5 more wins. No team has more than 4 wins outside of those 4. There are 2 teams that are 500, New Orleans, which is 3-2, and Chicago at 3-3. You've got 1-5 Jacksonville, 2-4 Washington, 2-3 San Francisco, 1-5 Houston, 0-6 Detroit. Can this team make a late season run?
It's funny because you have to make a choice. You can make a late season run, but to salvage that, you probably have to do some things that, in my opinion, might make Russ unhappy in the offseason. And so you might, again, I hate to sound so down after this one last game. I enjoyed the game. It was quite fun. I just thought a lot of the handwriting was on the wall. I was like, okay, so yeah, we can, but we're going to have to play to our strengths. We're going to have to play to our philosophy. We have to play to what the head coach is comfortable with. The next couple of games, you have to be like super run heavy, I think. And then when Russ comes back, then you have to make a choice. Are you going to go back to what Shane was doing? Because we weren't like amazingly successful with it at the beginning of the season. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't great. It was okay. And Sammy, you told us every week how you weren't sold on Shane. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I think some like major decisions are going to be thrust upon the entire team in the next 5 weeks, and that'll tell us where we're going at. I suspect we cannot make the run. I suspect we are watching right now the devolution and the end of the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks era. That's how I feel right now. Sorry. It was an entertaining game. I don't want to say like I'm down on the season. I had a great time. Weirdly, with no pressure on the game, I think I enjoyed that game more than I've enjoyed the game in a couple of years. Just enjoyed like the entertainment value of the game. Enjoyed like, wow, they made some adjustments at halftime. Looking to come back in the game. Hey, Big Ben. I really enjoyed the game. And maybe that's what I needed, just like to not have to worry about the win or loss, because like I kind of assumed we were going to lose. But as far as the Seahawks go, I don't know, man. It doesn't look like it all work. I don't want to say Zeb's exactly right. Like Trey Brown looks like the real deal. And like, when's the last time we hit on a cornerback? Wow, cool. And there's some good stuff there. It just feels like it's just not all clicking together anymore, and maybe things are stale, and there's contrasting world views that I don't think you can actually put back in the box together, and I don't know. How about you, Sammy? What are you thinking?
I think it depends on like what you expect a run to be. I think the playoffs are less and less of a likelihood. I think they have a decent shot against the Saints. I don't think it's going to be an easy game. It will kind of require some flukes here and there. But they have a chance. They could go into their bye week 4-4. That's definitely something that is very doable. It's not out of this world for them to beat the Saints. It's not out of this world. I actually expect them still to beat the Jaguars, in 2 weeks. So they could go into the bye 4-4. That means, they need to kind of go on a little bit of run. But to your point, it kind of depends. Like, if you make this run, what are you hoping to accomplish? I don't think the playoffs are in the cards. So are you trying to build onto next year? And if you
We're trying to give the Jets the worst pick possible.
Yeah, like if you're doing so, like, is it to build onto next year when there's potentially a lot of players that are not even signed for next year? Like, there is a huge amount of roster turnover that is going to happen in the next year and a half, and that's not even including what they decide to do with Bobby, what they're going to do with Russ. This is just natural. Like, Quandre Diggs is a free agent, Dwayne Brown's a free agent. There's Gerald Everett is going to be a free agent. He's so valuable right now, but I don't know what is in store because I don't know what a run would do. Yeah, if you win 10 in a row, perfect. You're 12-4, and then whatever you do in that last game, it doesn't matter. Whether you're 12-5 or 13-4, it doesn't matter. But the likelihood of them doing that is zero. Like, there's no chance that they're going to just run off 10 straight. So if you win and you're fighting for 9-8 or 8-9, what are you hoping to accomplish? And Pete's always going to put forth a team that's going to compete. We haven't seen his players quit on him yet. We haven't seen anyone, do anything that makes it seem like, the team has given up on the Seahawks. But
I guess one thing you could be hoping to do if Russ comes back fairly soon, fairly early, you can probably convince Pete Carroll to give like the rest of the season as a sort of test run. Does the defense improve enough to use this offense? Does this offense work? Can you get comfortable with it, Pete?
Yeah.
Can you make it work? And like that's so the rest of the season is sort of an experiment. And then in the off season, you decide like, okay, we're going to go forward with this and Russ stays, and that's going to be awesome. Or we're going to be like, let's trade Russ. We're going to go back to finding a economical quarterback who's efficient, and we're going to do what Pete likes to do, and we're going to run the ball and be balanced. It could be like that. It could be
like that. But this is a topic for another podcast, which is what does the next quarterback of the Seahawks look like? And we've gone on and on and on. We've always talked about it theoretically. This is the first time that it's actually going to happen. Like even in the offseason, I said that there was no way they were going to trade Russ. And the door opened. People thought that was a possibility. I was very adamant that it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't. I did leave the door open and say, like, yeah, but in the offseason of 2021, that's when the door is really going to be open, and it's going to be even more so now. But to cap it off in what is going to happen in this year of 2021, with the way that this team is currently constructed, the defense has made some modifications. Trey Brown seems to be someone who is a lot better than Sidney Jones, a lot better than Trey Flowers, which is a huge plus. There are definitely concerns about his size and his injury to open the year, but maybe that's enough. And if you've got two corners that can play well, not great, just well, that gives Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams a little bit more opportunity, and then we'll see what happens there. But we are going to move on. We're going to talk about topic number 3. So the topic number 3 is the Hawkscast Corner, and every game on the forum at hawkscast.net, someone always writes the duds. So we've had 4 games, so we've had 4 weeks of duds. I think we've even had them in a couple of games that they won. But there are a lot of people that have made reoccurring appearances. Pete Carroll, Shane Waldron, Russell Wilson, the running game, Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner. Ross, of the people that have shown up on the weekly duds on the website, who do you think is the worst of them so far?
I mean, there's a couple low-hanging fruit here. I'm going to take the slightly less obvious one. Of the people we've discussed, to me, it's Bobby Wagner. Sorry. Jamal Adams is the hot shot new dude they brought in, but Bobby Wagner, you are the captain. Bobby, you are the heart and soul of the team. You're one of the 2 players left from the Super Bowls. You are a future Hall of Famer, meant to be the leader. And this season, Bobby is not getting it done. He's probably lost a bit of a step and isn't getting there much on his blitzes. And in coverage, he's become a liability. That was never his best play. That was KJ Wright's best thing, but he was good at it. I mean, you see, back in the day, there was he had 4 or 5 interceptions a year sometimes. But he's still an effective vacuum cleaner. He just sucks up all the tackles, but now those tackles are always 5 yards downfield instead of 2, 3, or -1. There's very few spectacular impact plays coming out of Bobby, and although there is that other good guy on the defense that's supposed to be making things happen, Bobby's the captain. Bobby's the leader. Bobby's making even more money, $18 million. And again, he apparently Bobby Wagner's inability to play effectively in a zone, opened up the Tennessee Titans' eyes to Derrick Henry being a receiver. Derrick Henry's had never caught more than 2 passes in a game, and now since the Seattle game on, they've turned him into a receiver. Bobby was so bad and targeted so bad and allows Derrick to catch the ball so much in sort of practice catching that now Derrick Henry's like a multifunctional back all of a sudden. Bobby, sorry man, you're probably playing somewhere else next year and for a lot less. Sorry.
Yep. Zeb, what about you?
I have to go with Jamal, and that's not to say that he hasn't hasn't played well the whole time. In fact, I think he had a better game this last week than most of the season up to this point. But the thing about Jamal is that the type of player he is, his role in this defense, we need impact plays. We need him to get those pressures and those hurries and those sacks. And obviously we talked about the interceptions already, and he just hasn't been able to produce.
0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, even.
Nothing.
0.
Nothing. I mean, even the hurries are down in the single digits. I don't know what they are exactly, but they're not a lot. He's not making the impact we need him to make. We need him to be disruptive. We need him to, to mess things up for the offense so that they can't just march down the field on us the way they have. So I'm very I love Jamal, and I think there's still a lot of hope for him to end up having a good season, but it is not looking very good at this point. And with all that swagger and all that attitude and all that confidence, it's a little bit frustrating. Like, I love it, but we need to see those results on the field. I was so sure that he was going to pick up where he left off last year and probably end the season with double-digit sacks. And at this point, that just looks virtually not even plausible. So,
quick question: would you consider sitting him for a half, like kind of a high school college sort of approach to motivation? But like, would you want to see what Ryan Neal looks like as a full-time starter for like a game or half a game?
I would rather replace Ugo Amadi or Marquise Blair for Neal.
Yeah, I don't think sitting him's going to do anything. I don't know if motivation's a problem, and this could all be. This could be scheme more than anything else. I don't understand the game at that level necessarily.
One thing that they've been doing with Jamal is rather than having him come off of the edge, they're having him come up like between the guard and the tackle
on those delayed blitzes,
right.
And he's just never there on time.
And what happened is in that Steelers game is they had Jamal coming off the edge and he was getting in the backfield. He was doing well on the run plays, but Ben had the third quickest release in the NFL this year. Like the average time it took for him to fire the ball, that was the third highest in the NFL. That he
so that was another. I mean,
he's a savvy vet. Like he knows what he's doing. That's Big Ben. That's not that's him. That's how he is. That's how good he is.
So here's the question though. Like you were talking, maybe it's schemes that we know. I mean, Pete Carroll himself said, like you're not going to get sacks on Big Ben. He's not going to hold the ball at all.
Right.
So if you know you're not going to, and no matter what he's going to release the ball that fast. Should we be blitzing then? Shouldn't you then take out your blitzer, put in Ryan Neal, put in Marquise Blair, and have another guy on the field in coverage? Because no matter what, your blitz isn't going to get there.
Well,
delayed blitz on a guy who throws the ball, and 2 seconds later, by the time you start your blitz and you're halfway there, like he's already thrown the ball.
Now
you've delaying a blitz.
You've definitely got a good point. I got just a couple of quick things on what you just said. We definitely saw Ryan Neal out there. Do we have any numbers on how many snaps?
What's that? 15.
15. Okay. I wouldn't mind seeing more. But then also Marquise Blair apparently can't tackle. So I don't know that he's the guy that I want going in.
Is that a job requirement? Oh yeah, wait. He's got a cool name.
He does, and he looks cool, and he looks the part, and he's got some skills, but for some reason he doesn't seem to be able to wrap up a tackle.
He's like a Hollywood safety, like looks the part.
Yeah,
he's got soap opera muscles.
Yes, and like I said, like that's a cool safety name, man. My name's Marquise Blair.
Really quickly, this totally off topic. So Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns, he plays with sleeves. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Browns games, but he's at the end really good. He plays with sleeves, kind of like who was our Maxwell, Byron Maxwell that used to wear sleeves, and they were loose sleeves, not like anything to like accentuate any muscle or definition you might have. So anyway, in 2 games, I think going back to even last year, Myles Garrett has gone sleeveless. And after those games, he has been quote-unquote randomly selected for a drug test. So he says he is officially retiring sleeveless Myles Garrett because he doesn't want to tempt the 3 for 3 and get a third random drug test from the NFL after showing off his very well-defined arms.
Yeah,
he is built like a Greek god.
Yeah. Zeb, I didn't want to throw you off. I apologize for that. And anything else that you want to add about like some duds that you've seen so far this year that have just shown up again and again and again?
Well, I don't want to steal any of your thunder. I'm sure you have something important.
I got a couple. I'm gonna go with the coaches and the front office. I think that they have been really, really poor this year, and it stems from a lot of different places. So obviously I'm not a big believer in Shane Waldron, my biggest frustration with him is everyone has been talking about like, oh, wait until Jarrett Everett gets back. Wait until D. Eskridge gets back. If your offense is so predicated on two guys that are like the third and fourth option, actually the fourth and fifth option, because Chris Carson should have been like in the top three with DK and Tyler. If your offense is so predicated on that tight end and a motion wide receiver, what are you doing in the NFL? Like if that's what it requires for you to run an offense, I don't know how you can function, because you already have Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Yeah, you don't have Chris Carson. You could still run the ball. We've seen you could be effective with it. You don't have to like be like Chris Carson and like take down 5 people every time you run the ball. So that's who I think has been a dud. I just looked it up. Over the course of these 6 games, they're averaging 23.3 points per game. In a loss, they're averaging 21 points. In a win, they're averaging 28 points. So it's really, really bad and inconsistent for what we expect this explosive offense to be. If this is what we were going to get, I would have rather that Pete, Russ, and Schottenheimer just figured it out, had a kumbaya session like Richard Sherman made fun of, and just figured it out, because I would have trusted the offense to at least score more points than what we've seen now. And by all reasons, outside of Chris Carson, this offense is nearly identical and technically should be better, especially the pace that DK and Tyler were going towards, minus the touchdown receptions. So that's the first person who I feel has been a consistent weekly dud. The second of the front office is Pete, Ken Norton, and I'm going to do the 2 of them first.
Holy cow, Sam is going to win the Austin Slater Award.
I know, he's going to love me today. But the reason why I'm saying a weekly dud is I am still a big Pete believer. I still think Pete is the best coach the Seahawks have ever had. I still trust that his system works. I think the problem is that he has made it so that he has to do what a lot of other teams have to do. You have to placate where your money is being spent. If your money is being spent on your quarterback, you have to help build things around your quarterback. If your money is built around your middle linebacker and your strong safety, you have to build and kind of like patchwork that with your rookies, with your free agent acquisitions, with your vets, to placate that. And that is the problem that we are running into. And it's no fault of Pete. This is what every franchise runs into. It happens like immediately fast. Like, remember, the Eagles don't have their quarterback or their starting quarterback, and they won a Super Bowl like 3 years ago. Like, that's a really far fall. The Rams were in a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they got rid of their starting quarterback. The Niners were in the Super Bowl a year and a half ago, and they already drafted their heir apparent. So I get that things can change, and I give Pete credit for making it stand as long as it has. And it's not necessarily Pete, but it's just that I feel that the system, the NFL, the way that it's constructed, has caught up to him. And his roster construction has been hampered because he's had to sacrifice in ways that we haven't seen, especially because they have failed. Ken Norton, that's an easy one. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit. You know, congratulations. Your 6th game, you didn't give up 450 yards. You know, it's a terrible Steelers team. Been through it 40 times, and his ball looks awful. I feel like if you know, my maximum effort throw, I could have thrown it farther than Ben on a given play. You know, just one. I only have one of them in me. Ben has more, but just one throw, I feel like I could have aired it out longer than he could have. And I feel that's really sad. But, and my last dud is got to be John Schneider. You know, there's so many limitations with the salary cap and the way that the draft works, but we're seeing the roster construction is starting to fail. You know, there's a lot of hope for guys that we have. There's a lot of talent, but they're not being utilized in, I think, a way that we need to see. You know, we all knew that quarterback was going to be an issue, and the fact that it took until week 6 for our guys to get healthy and, you know, hopefully to see things turn around. That's really bad. For us to be relying on our third, fourth, and fifth running back to be our main ball carriers, that's really bad. Extending Chris Carson.
Wait, how is that? Wait, I don't understand now. If you're saying you're giving this to John Schneider, but you're talking about, well, we're relying on our third, fourth, fifth running back, but John Schneider didn't hurt Chris Carson.
And I'm not saying that he's responsible for injuries.
And John Schneider, against everybody's wishes, drafted an effective running back, we thought, in the first round, against what you're supposed to do in the modern NFL, knowing that we would need depth at running back. That seems to indicate he actually did something right. It's just the fact that Penny hasn't worked out. Right. But he wasn't like injury prone in college.
No, and
he's not CJ Procise.
Oh God, don't get me started on Procise.
He's not. So actually, didn't John Schneider do the right thing? It didn't work out, but didn't he do the right thing? If Penny actually was really healthy right now, wouldn't we be actually, and like he was getting 100 yards per game, wouldn't we be saying, wow, John Schneider had all this foresight. He grabbed Penny when we all mocked him for taking it in the first round, but here we are needing Penny last year, because it would have been worked out last year, right? And we needed him this year. And oh my God, what a great idea and what a great foresight that was. Like, he didn't know.
He was getting 100 yards a game, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, nobody sat here and said, oh, it's a bad idea because he's going to get hurt. That's not something you can foresee.
No, and maybe I should be more clear in saying that I'm not upset because people have been injured. I'm upset because the moves that they've made haven't worked out. And it's not 100% their fault, because they've had other players like LJ Collier. LJ Collier is their first-round draft pick. He's been inactive for 4 games this year.
Okay, we're going to go a little long time, but I'm going to say one thing. Can I say one thing real quick?
You can say one thing, and again, like we'll wrap it up so we can kind of move on, but go ahead.
I want to say, like, I do have some more sympathy for this idea. I'm hopping on the Austin Slater bandwagon for 2022, maybe. For various reasons. But I'm going to say this about the whole, like, John Schneider, Pete Carroll, roster construction as another reason to be on the case. Like, we have drafted in the bottom 6 for, like, 11 years straight. So if you were playing fantasy football and, like Birdfinger set this up in one of his leagues and we all rebelled against it. Like, if I said in fantasy football, you draft first in this round, you assume it's fantasy football, you draft last in the second round and the first in the round. All right, you make it even, right? Would you be in a pay league that was like $100 entry, but you draft last every round? Like you draft 12th in the first round, you draft 12th in the second, 12th in the third, but you have to pay $100 to be in it. Would you be in that league? No, because everyone knows that's not fair. But the Seahawks every year are essentially for 10 years have drafted almost last in every round for 10 years. So if that's the rules of the game, then they can't go in after like the orthodox. I mean, we get on their case for being so dumb in the first round, but the point is not everybody has a first round grade. There's not enough people with a first round grade, and they know that if they just take like the 26th guy in this round and the 52nd guy in the second round and 78th in the third round, they're going to lose. You can't win anymore because you're taking the bottom talent in every round, and you have to be on the top of the ground. So what do they have to do? They have to think outside the box. They have to hope that they're the smartest guy in the room. LJ Collier doesn't look like he belongs in the first round, but they see something in some of his ability. Maybe it doesn't work out, maybe it does. But they draft him there because otherwise they're conceding, we're getting the 26th best player, so we're not going to be very good. Because that's all we ever get now for 10 years. So, yeah, some of the roster constructions look weird, and some of the draft strategies have looked weird. But I think they have to if you want to be competitive. No other NFL team, except for the Patriots, has stayed competitive year in and year out for 10 years. That's not how the NFL works, right? You peak out, and then you don't make the playoffs, and then you make the Super Bowl, you lose the Super Bowl, and you're out the next year. Or you play in the playoffs, you get to the Super Bowl, and you're it, and then you're down for a few years, right? Like, nobody stays at the top for 10 years. The NFL's not constructed that way. But they have. They have. And so, now 10 years down the road, there's a talent deficit. We don't have a lot of good people, and the players we think we are good probably aren't that good because the defense doesn't work with them. Maybe that's just like how it is. Like, I don't think if if we actually stay patient, if we let the Seahawks suck for 3 or 4 years, then we get some good drafts. But we stay with John Schneider, for example. Pete will probably be too old, but maybe John Schneider actually recaptures it, right? Maybe if he gets a better draft position, maybe he does find it again. But I don't think it's really fair after 10 years of drafting nearly last every year to go, oh God, man, where's our talent at? Well, he's drafting with one hand essentially behind his back, if you want to mix metaphors.
Yes, and to be clear, no. To be clear, I'm talking about just this year. The roster moves have not helped. And to your point, Ross, the Seahawks, the highest draft pick that they've had before Bruce Irvin, which was the 15th pick in the 2012 draft, is 27. That's the highest that they have drafted. Yeah. You know, so I get it, and I'm not saying that they are bad or I want them fired. I'm saying from a weekly dud perspective that we put on Hawkscast.net, I've got the coaching staff and I've got John Schneider in my duds.
And I think the Shane one, not that you're asking my commentary on your choices, but the Shane one I agree with, because like we all had high hopes, but I did mention this a few weeks ago, and I think Zeb was talking about it. At the end of the day, you are saying we're putting the future of the franchise, because of this interesting position we're at with, like the crossroads we're at with what's Russ going to do, and Pete's this old and he probably can't rebuild, and what are we going to do? But you're putting a lot on a first-time play caller who's a first-time coordinator, who's a first-time person putting together his own playbook for for offense. That's and the dude's like 17 years old, something like that. So that's, maybe, so in hindsight, but the thing is, Russ, that's also who Russ had input. Russ wanted that dude. Russ wanted the young wonder kid. And so that, Wonder kid, sorry, my bad. That's what he wanted, right? And so that's what he got, and this is what we get. But even that's partly on Russ. Like, this is where Russ needs a little bit of self-awareness. This is the first offseason he really started telling other people that he could do their job better, that he knew their job better. And he doesn't. But yeah, like, I don't know if this is the best time to give a first-time coordinator and first-time play caller the keys to the car when it's all hanging on it right now. Maybe you go and hire somebody who's more established. I don't know, but man, anyway. Sorry.
All right. Good times. All right, we're going to move on to topic number 4, and this is the New Orleans Saints. So, I don't know if you guys know a lot about the New Orleans Saints, but they have this guy, Alvin Kamara. He's pretty good if you like fantasy. He's even better if you're in a PPR league. He's kind of their entire offense. And if Alvin Kamara is the Saints' entire offense, Zeb, can the Seahawks shut him down?
It's a matchup problem for sure. They're going to throw 20 passes to him underneath, right? Like, who is going to guard Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield? Like, who's going to cover him? We're just talking about how Bobby seems to have lost a step or 4, and he's going to be probably responsible for that a lot of the time, and he's going to struggle. It's going to be complicated. Hopefully they are putting together a masterful game plan, try to do some different things, and slow him down. But they're definitely not going to shut him down. It's just not going to happen. Our best bet is going to probably be to try to force Jameis to make some mistakes, which he's very prone to do, as we know. But Kamara himself is going to be an issue, and I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be probably very frustrating.
They are the 31st team in passing yards per game at 180.8 yards per game. They're 9th in rushing at 125.8 yards per game. They're 30th in total yards per game at 306 yards. They're 10th in points per game at 25.4. Their time of possession is actually worse than the Seahawks, surprisingly.
Something's got to give. Unless like thin air is going to have like 10 minutes of possession time. Oh, man.
I mean, we were just talking about how Henry looked like all of a sudden was a pass catching back against us. Like,
yeah,
you know.
So, yeah, I think you could take away some of it. I think if you just park the corner, I mean, like our cornerbacks, dare I say, are maybe league average now. Maybe
Better.
Park them in the flats. So you force them to throw to Kamara like over the middle, like short middle stuff, and then at least just keeping it in front of you, and that's like, and then eventually Jameis will give you one, right? And that's what you can do. I think that's what we're going to see a lot of. I don't think you're going to see a lot of wheel routes and screen passes to Kamara. I think that much they'll contain because it's just too obvious. God, I say that now, but now I can't even imagine. Jesus, never mind. I hope for that. I hope they contain the flat and the wheels, and they just give him like anything in the middle and let Bobby stop it for 5 yards. And yeah, they're gonna march up. They're probably gonna have their year high in yards. Where we're gonna hope that Jameis makes enough mistakes, gives us a couple, and that's where we get our advantage. We steal a possession or two so we can win. Maybe that's how I see it.
It's
Kamara's legit. Still start him on your fantasy team.
Yeah, right. It's interesting to tackle this kind of idea because we're really thinking about, okay, what's like the least amount of damage that can be done? And it's like, well, let's just give up underneath all day long and hope that Jameis is the one that makes a mistake.
I don't think he's really patient. I think eventually he's going to try something. And then you just kind of hope that Quandre is on point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if there's a game that there is opportunity for turnovers, it's definitely this game. Jameis Winston, he's only thrown 3 interceptions. He's only played in 5 because they did have the bye week. But the teams that they lost to Carolina when they were healthy, and then they lost to the New York Giants not too long ago. They had a huge win against Green Bay when everyone thought that Aaron Rodgers was done. That was not true, but they're an interesting team because there's nothing that they do particularly well. They're kind of like a better version of this bad Seahawks team, and I don't know if there's anyone that really trusts Jameis Winston to do everything they need to do, but if he can just take the underneath and just like pass it for 5 to 10 yards, 20, 25 times a game, that's probably enough, because if they don't turn the ball over and the Seahawks can't force the ball, I don't know if our offense can really keep up with them. Just because I'm not sure what our offense really is at this time. So I don't even know if it matters if the Seahawks shut down Alvin Kamara.
Dude, like second half last game, that's what our offense is going to look like. It's going to be run, pass, get used to it. You're just going to ask Geno to be able to make 6 yards passes on 3rd and 5.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really faced like a powerhouse running team. But they're second in rushing yards against per game. They only give up 79 yards on the ground. And they're a middle of the road team in regards to total yards against. But yeah, they have it's an interesting team, and because the Seahawks are so flawed this year, I really don't think it matters how their offense operates. Sean Payton, he's been in the league for a really long time. He survived 3 years of 7-9 and not getting fired, so he knows how to win in this league. We'll see what happens. Final thoughts on the Saints, though.
Seahawks are 8-8 all time against the Saints.
8-8.
8-8. 2 of the wins, though. 2 of our wins have been in the postseason.
Those are such good wins. I remember those.
Yeah,
one was like an easy win, and then one was the Beastquake game.
Yes,
Yep.
the Beastquake, maybe the greatest moment in Seattle sports history, possibly up
What
there.
what I remember about the last Seahawks win, that's when it was. I want to say that was the Super Bowl 49 year, and it's the year that we didn't. It was the Super Bowl 49 year because Jimmy Graham was like trying to mess with Bruce Irvin, and Bruce Irvin like knocked the ball out of his hand like they were on a schoolyard, and Jimmy Graham yells at the Seahawks Bruce Irvin and says, "I'm Jimmy Graham," and Bruce Irvin just kind of laughed it off. Jimmy Graham had one catch that game, and it came in the fourth quarter. So,
Right.
yeah. And then he became a Seahawk for 3 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they've beat us the last 2 times, so
Yep.
let's break that. Let's break that. Let's
right.
change it.
All right.
Change it.
Well, we're going to get to some predictions here. So here's a recap of how we did last week. So Zeb predicted a 27-24 Seahawks win. That did not happen. Ross predicted a 28-27 Steelers win. I predicted a 21-17 Steelers win. I guess I'm a little bit closer than Ross because Ross thought they'd score almost 4 touchdowns each when that's not the case. But we're all losers in the end, really. So we're going to pick it up, and we're going to start predictions for this week. Zeb, what's the final score? Seahawks versus the Seahawks. Saints versus Seahawks, sorry.
I'm going to go Seahawks 31, Saints 23.
Okay. Ross.
24-13 Seahawks.
Whoa.
Predicting Seahawks for the first time in 3 weeks. No.
Wow.
Defense.
Yeah, you guys have a lot more faith than I do. I'm still having the Saints win this game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring affair. It's going to be something like 20-14. Yeah, not super enthused. Who's going to have more passing yards though? Jameis Winston or Geno Smith?
Jameis.
Geno Smith, actually.
I'm gonna go with Geno because I think we're gonna try and catch up, and we're gonna have to pass in order to try and keep it close.
Winston has been throwing for relatively few yards every game. He's got several games under 200. So
yeah, he averages about 170 per game. So he and Geno are actually pretty close right now.
it's weird.
Is he gonna have more rushing yards or receiving yards, Mr. Alvin Kamara?
Receiving.
I think they're gonna run the ball. I think that's where they're gonna find success. They're gonna try and eat up a lot of clock. Who's gonna have more targets, DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? They were tied with 7 each. DK caught 6. Tyler only caught 2.
DK.
DK's. Lockett's game doesn't seem to be a good fit for Smith. Yeah.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think it's a good matchup.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with DK. I think DK is going to have the edge, personally. I think he's just that traditional big wide receiver you just throw the ball to, whereas Tyler Lockett's a little bit more crafty veteran, and I don't think he has a rapport with Geno yet. Zeb, yes or no, Jamal Adams gets a sack?
Nope.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say
You're
that this
wrong.
is the game. This is a game that Jamal Adams is going to break out and get his first sack of the year. Zeb, yes or no, is Darrell Taylor going to get a sack? He's practicing. He might play on Monday night.
Really? Wow. Well, if he plays, he's getting a sack.
Yes, he'll play and he'll get a sack.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to send the good thoughts out there. Darrell Taylor's going to get a sack. He's been a pleasant surprise this year. Zeb, yes.
Did he use the nano bubbles? What happened there? How'd that work?
I think Ross just sent him a whole crate of nano bubbles. Sent it directly to the hospital and said
I was
just give him
posting, but
this.
I was posting during the game, but it was to Tony and his friend Arthur. But I don't think the injury was ever that bad. From the very, very first moment he got hurt, he consciously turned his body. He rolled over onto his back. So actually, he was already not paralyzed or whatever. But I think what happened is essentially, the trainers got there and he immediately said, "My neck," and that kicks in some severe automatic protocol. You can't move. They're going to belt you down. They screw off the front of your face mask. He's moving. He's fine. He's able to do stuff. But basically, he said the magic words that invoked the protocol, right? And so they now have to treat it as a possible spinal injury until they MRI you. So that's why he's strapped down. They won't let him move. Apparently, he was mad about it even. But I never thought it was that bad.
Daryl Taylor made the fatal mistake of saying the word bomb on an airplane.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't say neck, don't say strain, don't say, don't say certain words. Otherwise, it's invoked.
I just felt like it took way longer to get him off the field than it normally does. Like I
think it's because he was like, "God damn, I'm fine, guys, I'm fine."
Because there was in the Monday night game there was a similar situation with a neck thing, and it didn't take half as long to get this guy off the field, but they did all the same stuff.
You never know. Like, you kind of figure like they're trying to take off the mask part of the helmet, and like everybody's like, "I've only got a flat head. I've only got a flat head. Does anybody have a Phillips?" And so they're not getting it off. I never thought it was that bad because like they show the replay a bunch of times, and I kept seeing him like the play's over, he gets up on his elbows and then he rolls over. I'm like, okay, if he can do all that and then look around, see where the trainers are, then he's actually fine. Oh God, you just said the word neck.
I'm surprised though. If that were the case, you'd think he would have tried to sit up like right away, and they would have like, did they just like hold him down? Like, no. Like we're sitting on you.
Like, you're not allowed to move, right? Don't move, dude. Like, you're not allowed to move. So, okay. And like and they say the words like, because, you possibly could have like, your spinal cord could be exposed. So if you do move, but you have a broken bone, for example, the bone could like cut the spinal cord. Now you're paralyzed, and bummer you. But if it's not cut, then you're fine.
Right.
So as long as it's not cut, and as long as you find out there's no bone fractures on the exposed, nerves, you're fine. It wasn't a stinger. But anyway,
two more predictions. Zeb, yes or no? We're gonna have a big Ryan Neal sighting in this game.
Yes.
Zeb or Ross, a big Ryan Neal sighting.
I think we don't have time to go into it, but I think there's some subtle signs that, that's going to happen this week.
I mean, if he can get on the field, all the better for it. I am concerned that Ryan Neal is potentially an Alton Robinson, who has basically disappeared from the rotation. Like, the guy can't play the run, Alton Robinson, so he's just not on the field. So
he also had offsides, didn't he?
Yeah. So I'm worried that that's why we don't see Ryan Neal, not because he's bad, but just he's limited, and there's other people that can do more. So
there's no limiting Ryan Neal.
I know you think so because we saw him play so well last year, but the final prediction for the night, Zeb, yes or no? LJ Collier, is he going to be active in this game?
Yes.
Ross?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I feel like there's no purpose in hoping that LJ Collier is going to present himself and make his presence known.
Sorry. I knew you guys were going to say no. That's why I said yes.
See?
Wait. Sorry. Does he get active when Alton Robinson is deactivated, though? Who does he take the place of?
It's usually Robert Kumdiche is the one that he's
all right.
inactive for.
Okay, so Collier's inactive then. Okay.
Yeah.
And
gentlemen, that's our show for the day.
Nah, hold on. We got to say Matt Hasselbeck goes into the Ring of Honor this week. Check that out.
The Warrior, the old Warrior.
And definitely check out his his show that was on Mike Sulk's show. The one they did yesterday. Got some cool, they go down his top 10 plays as a Seahawk, or the plays that he was involved in. Some cool insights, some really cool insight. If we had more time, I'd share a story, but we don't have time. So.
You know what, Ross? You know what you could do? You could go to the website, hawkscast.net, link his segment, and then put your own interesting factoids for those of us that don't want to listen to Mike Sulk.
Okay, something like that.
So shout out to the people that are not Mike Sulk, because that guy just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
You're such a Seattle dude.
It has nothing to do with the fact that he's from the East Coast. I don't think he as a person is a good person, and that's one of the things that I look for.
Well, how is he not a good person? Oh my God.
Go look up. I'll post. You know what, Ross? I'm going to do you a solid. I'm going to go to hawkscast.net. I'm going to find an article written by Jim Moore, backed by other people that talked about why Mike Salk is not a great guy.
All right, you do that.
And I will tag you. That's a feature that we have on the website. You can tag at people so that they know that you want them to read something. You can only use it for the good. No dark side usage, please.
All right, cool.
But gentlemen, other shout-outs.
Shout out to
that whole 2005 Seahawks team.
Yes, shout out to my homeboy Joof Tusham.
Yeah.
Joof.
Oh, Joof.
Literally everybody Zeb knows has better names than my friends.
Yeah. Ross, any shout-outs today?
No.
All right. I want to shout out
to Birdfinger.
Shout out to Birdfinger as always. I want to do a shout out to the Fantasy Gods because in one of my leagues I'm 2-4 and I have like the worst run differential because teams happen to have career weeks against me. But in Ross's league, in the auction PPR league, I'm killing it. I'm 5-1. My only loss is by 0.18. I'm coming for everyone in that league. We're the Hawkscast.net podcast. With me, as always, is Zeb and Ross. I am Sam. We wish you a Go Hawks. Go check us out at Twitter at Seahawks Forum, Seahawks Podcast, and Hawkscast.net. Peace.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.